Hey everyone, hope that you're having a wonderful start to your weekend. I am buzzing with excitement and nerves and emotion. I've been wanting to share and create this video with you for a few months now. I'm sitting out on the balcony. It's a gorgeous day here. I'm leaving for France this evening for a couple weeks, and before heading off and like zipping up my suitcase, there's a really important thing I wanted to share with you. So, for those of you who've been following me for a long time or who may have worked with me in the past, or maybe you're working with me currently, if you're working with me currently, you already know, one of my life goals and aspirations in life was to become a mom. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I think you already know. I am pregnant and expecting our first baby in May 2020. And we're just so thrilled. I'm so happy and grateful and excited. I had a feeling I would get emotional saying it, even though you're not sitting in front of me right now, but you are in a way. I've really been thinking about when and how I would be able to share it with you, and it's been difficult to not say anything. I'm pretty transparent. I'm quite the open book, but I did want to wait a little bit before sharing it publicly. I didn't wait the 3 months to tell close friends and family because, well, I wanted those who are around me to know. And also, interestingly enough, that's also the period where I was feeling nauseous and vomiting and whatnot, which I've just passed that hump about a week ago. So I think it's kind of hard probably to not tell anyone when you're feeling kind of crappy. But this is a game changer in the most beautiful way. My partner and I are just so thrilled. And this may also explain why there's been maybe some radio silence around what's happening with the U Collective program and like maybe other things. Because I was, aiming to lead the U Collective in 2020. However, when we got this news, first week of September, it quickly, became clear to me that I wouldn't be leading a year-long program, particularly because it's our first baby together, and my boyfriend already has a son, so I'm very excited to see him as a big brother, and I'm fortunate to also be a stepmom. But I knew that I didn't want to take that on or that responsibility for you, but I am, planning that the program will come back in 2021. However, that being said, I will be leading something really special in January for a few months. And in my next video, I'll tell you more about that. But today I want to tell you the announcement and also let you know what's going on with the U Collective, because I've been feeling bad that I haven't been telling you what's going on, but I didn't want to tell you that it wasn't happening without being able to explain it. So that's why. And so for those of you who are interested in the program, I hope that you'll join us in January for what's coming. It's going to be a really unique experience, and I can't wait to lead it with this creative energy and life energy that's literally brewing through all my body. That being said, I know some people are curious about, how's it going with pregnancy, or might have something. So I'm just going to tackle some of the common questions that I've been getting about, how's it going and whatnot. And so first and foremost, this was something that we wanted. I and have been wanting. And I think this summer, just like physically, I really prepared myself in a way. Having made, I think in the last year and a half, a really conscious choice to put my personal goals at the forefront of my life and to make some changes in order to really dedicate myself to creating a relationship and calling in my man. And then also working on myself to better myself for this person and for myself, and then also to prepare for this next stage in motherhood. To be perfectly honest, being 34, I'd have moments where I found it challenging to keep the faith that it was even going to be possible for me, even though after having read a few chapters and what to expect when you're expecting, I think I shouldn't have had stressed as much as I did. I think about the possibility of having a child, but I think with my medical history, a lot of my doctors had sometimes really pushed me to make it happen sooner rather than later. Without going into too much detail around that, there is some family history that not about fertility, but just about feminine health, reproductive health, that was sometimes brought up, and I think kind of made me wary or nervous that it might not happen. And then I think the conversation around women beyond 30, I think makes a lot of us feel concerned or worried about whether it's going to happen for us, whether physically or just with the right person. And for me, it was at the first and foremost, I wanted to find the person I wanted to spend my life with and create a family with. So having found that with Alex, and I'm so grateful, you know, conceiving was the next step. And I knew that I had to take care of my body, you know, because, and just be responsible for that, which we have to do at any age. Needless to say, we were fortunate enough to come together. And I pretty much knew pretty quickly that this was happening. I've been tracking my cycle for quite some time. And I did talk to you about the Flow app in one of my previous videos, which I've been using to track my menstrual cycle, but also tracks your ovulation cycle. So we knew I wasn't ovulating, I was a few days before. So just so you know, you're also fertile a few days before, and sperm can live quite a few days before it even meets the eggs. So if you're curious to find out more about embryology, it's fascinating stuff. And so I had this feeling at some point that this might have happened. And since I'm someone who likes to cleanse, when my boyfriend left for France in August, I had told myself I'd stop drinking. So it was kind of perfect timing. And also kind of cool to avoid any speculation around you when you know, you stop drinking, but you have the habit of always drinking. People might wonder, well, why are you not drinking? But because people know me for taking these breaks here and there, not too many questions were asked. But needless to say, I think that was helpful. And I'll tell you a few of the symptoms I had that kind of led me to thinking like, okay, I might actually be pregnant. The first sign that really like made me start wondering, oh, what's going on, was these crazy vivid dreams. I hadn't ever heard of this before happening, although now, having read it, it seems to be pretty common for a lot of women in early pregnancy and throughout pregnancy to have very vivid dreams. But it started happening like every night. And I will put on my hat, guys, because it's really sunny. I didn't want you to not be able to see me, but I think you can see me well enough, and I wanted to be out in the sun. Anyway, the vivid dreams, I started looking that up. I'm like, what does this mean? Because this is really weird. So that really started happening. And it was interesting because a lot of these dreams seem to have these subliminal messages to them, which were kind of interesting. One in particular with my boyfriend's son, which really moved me. It's as if this deeper connection was happening between him and I, which I don't know, is really a beautiful thing. So that was one thing. I also had like moments of dizziness, which I'm not someone who typically gets dizzy unless I'm like spinning. So you won't really find me spinning much. But that was happening kind of without doing much, short of being out of breath, which I kind of feel like I am right now just because I'm excited and nervous. And I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm going to try to slow down. So a little bit of shortness of breath, you know, and I'm someone that's very active. I walk every day. And sometimes it's just walking Bali. I was like getting out of breath. I was like, that's strange. I then had this kind of, I wouldn't call it contraction, but this kind of cramp that I was like, this isn't digestive. This isn't like a menstrual cramp. And I don't know, no one will be able to prove this, but I was like, okay, I feel that was the moment of conception. That might be crazy for some of you to hear, but I've heard of women that also have felt different moments where they're like, oh, this just happened. So that was kind of a particular moment. I remember exactly where I was, what I was doing. And I was like, oh, okay. And I hadn't taken a test or anything at that point. I actually had tried to wait. I was like, I'm going to wait till I miss my period. The day that I was set to, well, I didn't get my period. The day that I, officially missed it, because I'm pretty regular, and with the Flow app, you can track it. I knew I was going to go buy a test, and they say that you should take a test in the morning, but finally that's not necessarily true. That they're, at-home kits are pretty accurate, even if you take them anyway. But I was going to go buy one and keep it for the next morning, but I ended up buying a kit that had two tests in it. So I was like, huh. I got home, I had to go to the bathroom, peed on the stick, and there you go. The 2 lines came pink like that. And initially I felt very calm. I actually was like, okay, I'm still going to wait the 3 minutes, make sure I'm not just like visualizing or whatnot. I called my brother, started chatting, not telling him what was going on. And then I started feeling the emotion. Then it started sinking in, and I was like, okay. And my partner being in Europe working at the time, which if you've missed the previous videos, well, now you know, he's in France right now. And I FaceTime him, and I mean, I just burst into tears, and he had the best reaction. I think it set the tone for how I'm feeling and just us. And I feel so grateful for him and just his support, and just, he made me feel so safe and loved and excited. And so that was really amazing. And one thing I did before taking the test was I actually had this journal I had bought. I love journals. And I was just about to finish one, but this one was blank. And that morning I decided that I'd dedicate that journal to my baby and start writing to my baby instead of just to me. So I actually wrote a letter to my baby that day saying like, well, I'm pretty sure you're in me. So this might be a little crazy, but it's something that feels meaningful for me to do. And at the same time, I take these moments. I don't do it every day, but here and there, to connect to either things that are coming to my mind about who I want to be for this child or what's going on. And that's kind of fun. So it's something I'd like to give to them in the future. And yeah, I've loved to do like letters to the future. If you've worked with me before, it's an exercise we might have done together. So it's kind of taken from that, is like writing to something in the future and being able to give it to them later for them to connect to that. And I'm like, wow, this, beautiful gift, hopefully. So I did that. Needless to say, got the news. I was very excited, emotional also. I mean, and I think as I would tell people, I'd often just start crying. So when I told my parents, they're like, are you happy? I was just like, it was I think it just overwhelmed me in a beautiful way. And really special to be able to share it with people in your life. And things have been going really well. I did have some changes in my sleep patterns that are still kind of odd. I tend to be someone who sleeps without interruption. But I'm kind of up between 2 and 4 almost every night. And I'll either get up and like this morning I made a turmeric latte, sipped it, read a bit, and then went back to bed. But I did have like the nausea period for, I guess, I'm not calculating the weeks by weeks when it's happened, but I'm at 12 weeks now. So it was about for a month or so. And it started with just the nausea, and then I had a couple of weeks of vomiting in the morning. And it's not so much the vomiting that was an issue. I found the nausea was just really uncomfortable, particularly at night. And it would get me up. It was just like a weird, you can't really shake it off. At least I wasn't. But it wasn't like it didn't stop me so much from my day-to-day, but just definitely not the same kind of energy. So that was interesting, and definitely made me feel compassion for women who have that throughout their pregnancy or who have that pretty badly, because the reason you might have it can vary from person to person. And so I'm grateful that seemed to have passed, not 100%, but pretty much. And yeah, the vomiting, well, I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it's not so bad. You just get it done, and then I actually preferred getting it over with. And then the nausea would kind of fade, which kind of leads me to food, because I think we talk a lot about pregnancy cravings and whatnot. One thing that was interesting is just wanting to eat more frequently and in the middle of the night. One thing that would help me with nausea was eating. So either preventatively, or when I would start feeling nauseous, I'd eat something. Sometimes even when I wasn't really hungry, but it would really help. And interestingly enough, I've gained a few pounds, but not like what I would have assumed, considering that I was snacking a lot more than normal, and foods that I wouldn't normally eat. I have been eating lots of bread, lots of cheese. 2 things I'll eat sparingly normally, but I've been really digging it lately. For a while, soda crackers and Lipton soup are really, I was like going back to like childhood basics when you're like feeling sick. But hey, it worked. And at some point I was like, okay, I just got to go with what's working for me. And so snacking here and there has really been helpful. Yeah, bloating, flatulence, like burping and stuff. These are things I'm pretty familiar with, being someone who lives with Crohn's disease, but that's pretty well maintained, but it was just kind of different. It's definitely a different kind of bloating, flatulence, and burping than from the the former, but all manageable, just, not always super sexy, but you got to roll with it. So, a few people are like, "Oh, you're showing." I'm like, "I'm actually not showing. I'm just bloated." Not yet. So this might not be things you want to hear about, but it's just the reality, I guess, for me. And I think every woman has a different reality. And that's one of my big lessons. I had this kind of emotional breakdown one night when I let myself compare to other women. I was in a week where I was feeling really tired and feeling nauseous. And I was just not like, I was like, oh my God, I just wasn't feeling great. And hearing about some people who just like didn't have anything throughout their pregnancy. And I just kind of realized I had this image of what it's supposed to look like. I think in our very, glorified view of pregnancy, which it is such a beautiful thing, but the reality is it's very different woman for woman. And for me in that moment, I was like, I really need to just honor what's happening in my body, and not compare. So if it is something that you're on the path of or you're living, perhaps it's just a reminder to, and I think pregnant or not, it's something we need to remind ourselves to honor our path, our bodies, and our process, and our energy as well, because energy levels can be different person to person, symptoms as well. So that's just one thing that really was important for me to shift. And also to realize that productivity is very different right now. There's some days I go into bed and like I feel like I've run a marathon, but you're creating life. And what's the incredible thing of it is that it's just happening through you. And my role is to create the space for this to happen. I actively don't really have to do anything except for eat and things I would normally be doing. So it's fascinating. Embryology is something I've always been fascinated by, but I think all the more now, and I'm really loving this process of seeing that growth and that development. So needless to say, kind of segueing to different things here, food wise, energy wise, and all that, staying on your lane. I guess a couple cravings that, I guess people want to know, but I did drive out of my way to get poutine and a hot dog the other day. I did that twice, actually. Awesome. It was so good. It was like the best poutine I ever had. It felt amazing. I've lived, up north for, just a couple years now, but, grew up here, and there's this place I'd never been to. Totally went out for it. It was amazing. But another thing that I found interesting is just like quenching my thirst. My thirst has been different. I love water. I drink a lot of it, but there is like this desire to drink something like satisfying. I can't describe it other than that noise. Drink a lot of lemonade. Popsicles have been amazing. Had I known, I would have gotten them right away, because I did go into some ice cream moments, just not so much for the flavor, but the feeling of the cold. And I don't know, it really worked for me. And apparently for a lot of women it does. But fruit popsicles have been great. Other than that, food-wise, things are kind of back to normal now. And I feel also my appetite levels are a bit more normalized, but I am kind of snacking a little bit more than I would. And I'm eating earlier than I would. I tend to wake up and then like drink water and maybe eat only at like 10 o'clock. That's been my natural rhythm for a while. But since I've been pregnant, it's like wake up, maybe drink a little bit, and then eat pretty much right away. But that's kind of normalizing right now too. So anyway, I feel ultimately you got to listen to yourself and do what you feel is best, even if it's different than what you might have been used to. For me, that's the big thing. It's just like, okay, this is different than what I normally would do, but it feels like what feels best. And I think for me, my number one priority is not to stress myself about anything as much as possible. So I'm not going to stress about food choices, but like, hey, this is feel good. Like, do I feel relaxed in that? Ultimately, I think that's going to be the best food for me right now. And still making healthy choices. I'm not telling you about all the healthy ones I'm making along the way, but staying hydrated and eating lots of fruits and vegetables, definitely important as well. But you might feel like more carbs and dairy, and that's cool. Go for what you got. I guess two things that I haven't been craving, which I normally would, is coffee and chocolate. I love chocolate. And I tend to have a coffee every morning, but I've had maybe a couple since I found out. So that's been interesting, just like not wanting it, and not even for chocolate. And it's like we're right around the corner of Halloween and it's all around me. But so grateful for that, I guess. I've always wanted to be one of those people that didn't really care for chocolate. So maybe I'm living that right now. We'll see how long that lasts. What else do I want to tell you? I mean, other than that, things are going really well. It's been really cool. I've had 2 ultrasounds. One, normally you wouldn't necessarily have 2 at this stage, but one of my sister's clients is a doctor around here, and so she did like a early one, just like as a favor. And I brought my mom to that, which was really cool. My mom didn't have those kind of ultrasounds when I or my brother and sister were in her belly, and so that was really a special moment to be able to share that with my mom. And that was at 8 weeks or so, and to see the baby and its heartbeat, it's like, it's amazing. It really, I think, kind of a way was a confirming moment, because I did keep a certain reserve. You know, I think it's a fragile period, um, in a way. So seeing the baby and then having the doctor like confirm that everything's going well was just reassuring. And even though I felt that, there's still moments where you get kind of nervous. And so that was really great. And I had one this week, and I brought my niece and nephew, Jonathan and Ella, which was really cool. My niece Ella is really interested in children and loves babies. And my nephew was actually really into it as well. So I think it's really cool. I was at both of their births, and there's something that I love about the opportunity of being able to bring that into it. I feel it's something in our culture. We kind of isolate children from that, or at least that's maybe just my story. Maybe that's not actually the case, but I just feel that I remember going to a conference by a midwife who showed a video of birthing traditions, one in Mexico, for example, where the whole family was at the birth. And I was like, oh, that's so amazing, you know? And so I've been moved by that, and it's cool to be able to share that with family and to see that. And my brother and sister both have 2 kids, and even though my brother's out west, but to get some of their wisdom and some friends here as well. And that's really great. And what else? Oh, I've started nesting. Definitely been feeling that. Kind of like reorganizing our house to prepare for our arrival and having fun with that. I'm already someone who kind of enjoys spaces, but I feel there's like a new purpose now. Loving Kijiji. Secondhand stuff is like, there's so much. So I'm really excited. Got a nice crib and a beautiful rocker. Oh, so excited about it. That was like my most exciting purchase ever. So anyways, Kijiji, my new love, really enjoying that. Making the space look nice. I guess the last thing I would say is with regards to exercise and movement. I didn't really, I had the intention of going back to the gym, my regular routine, mid-August, when like the summer was kind of transitioning out, but I just wasn't like, that just wasn't what my body was calling for. So exercise has been pretty like basic. It's like long walks, yoga, and that's what's working. So I do intend to go back to the gym, but I'm just, again, like listening to what my body needs, and I'm feeling way more energized the last week or so, and that feels great to be able to be back, just feeling like in full gear. So that's awesome. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. And I'll be sharing with you some of this journey next week. I'll tell you a bit more about, well, I guess one thing that's coming up is burping. See, I'm feeling like I need to burp. Sometimes awkward when you're coaching, but gotta go with it, I guess. Next week, I'll be telling you about the program, the 2020 experience. I'll elaborate on that and where the inspiration come from. And this video definitely is giving you a sneak peek. So stay tuned for that. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be like a really special experience, and I can't wait to share it with you. Oh, last thing before I forget is an app that I'm loving, and it's been my like go-to for just inspiration and tools. It's called The Bump. So for any of you, on the path to becoming mamas, well, The Bump, loving it. So well done. It's amazing. The articles are short and pertinent, and every week you see your baby in a 3-dimensional view. It's incredible. I don't know who did these. It's so great. And what to expect when you're expecting a book that I had heard of that's in, I don't know which edition, but it's been around for a while. Also great to know what's going on. If you want to educate yourself, I find it's cool to find out why things are happening and what's happening. And I find those 2 have been my tools. And I guess my philosophy has been to not overwhelm myself with tools, because there is a lot of information. So I guess choose what you feel called to and limit, or at least that's my way of going about it. Because otherwise it's just there's so many different ways of looking at things. So I'm looking at, like, I want to educate myself on what's actually happening, and then, you know, selecting where I'm getting my tips and tools from so that I don't start freaking out, because, you know, parenting has been done for a long time. So we're all made for this, and we'll figure it out. So, but I am, you know, I'm curious to find out different tips and tools. And so if you have some of your favorites, you can share them with me. Doesn't mean I will bite the hook. Same way, I don't expect you to bite the hook on all the ones I share. But if it speaks to you, then great. You can use it to the way you need to. So with that, I'm going to get going. I've got to bring Bali to a ranch. That's where he'll be staying for a couple of weeks. And so he's going to have a little vacay, I guess, too, make some friends. Got a couple of things to prepare, and then heading to Montreal, catching a flight. And the next video, I'll be in France. So I'll tell you a little bit about what's happening there, and I'll tell you about the upcoming program. So thank you so much for being part of this journey. I'm excited to share this adventure with you. And for those of you who are wanting this in your life, stay with it. If you have these ups and downs, if there's moments where you feel like it may not happen for you, or you're nervous, I hope that I can be a reminder that it can and it will, and to stay on that path. That's what you're being called to. You know, some people will tell you maybe to do otherwise, but if you're feeling it in your heart, and you want to align your life to that, then do so. I'm really glad I did. And I know there was moments that I really felt impossible, or that, and maybe I was just mentally, I found it crazy, but that was my truth. And it was something I knew that I was called to, but, and I'm glad and grateful that it's here, or it's coming. So with that, I wish you a beautiful day. Enjoy this magnificent sunshine if it's shining where you are, and I will see you next time. Bye.